There is a cast in the Archaeological Museum of Naples that stops people in their tracks. It is not a statue. It is not a piece of art in any conventional sense. It is a plaster impression of a dog, a medium-sized animal, curled on its side, its body twisted in the final convulsion of death, its collar still visible around its neck. The dog has been dead for nearly 2,000 years, and yet something about the way it lies, something about the particular curve of its body and the position of its legs makes it feel less like an artifact and more like a presence. People stand in front of it and go quiet. Some of them cry. The dog's name, as far as anyone knows, was not recorded. Dogs in the ancient world were rarely given the kind of biographical treatment reserved for emperors and generals. But this dog left something behind that no emperor ever has, a record not of power or conquest, but of loyalty so absolute that it outlasted the city it lived in by 2 millennia and is still speaking to strangers today. To understand what this dog did, you have to understand what Pompeii was. In the summer of 79 AD, Pompeii was a prosperous Roman city of perhaps 11,000 people, situated in the shadow of a mountain that no one alive had ever seen erupt. Mount Vesuvius had been dormant for so long that the Romans had largely forgotten it was a volcano at all. The slopes were covered in vineyards. The soil was extraordinarily fertile, enriched by centuries of volcanic ash, and the wine produced there was considered among the best in the empire. The mountain was not a threat, it was a blessing. On the morning of August 24th, that changed. Vesuvius erupted with a force that modern geologists estimate at roughly 100,000 times the energy of the atomic bomb dropped on Hiroshima. A column of ash and gas and superheated rock shot 12 miles into the sky. The sky went dark over the Bay of Naples. Ash began to fall on the city like a strange gray snow, accumulating on rooftops and in streets, filling the air with a sulfurous heat that made it difficult to breathe. People grabbed what they could and ran. Some sheltered in their homes, believing the walls would protect them. Some made it to the harbor and escaped by sea. Others simply ran in whatever direction felt like a way and were overtaken by what came next. What came next was a pyroclastic surge, a wave of superheated gas and ash moving at hurricane force, fast enough to outrun any human being alive, hot enough to kill instantly. It swept through Pompeii and buried everything. The city that had been alive that morning was, by evening, gone, sealed under meters of volcanic material, preserved in the darkness and the silence, exactly as it had been at the moment of its death. When archaeologists began excavating Pompeii seriously in the 18th and 19th centuries, they discovered something extraordinary. The volcanic material had hardened around the bodies of the dead, creating hollow spaces in the rock that preserved the exact shape of what had been inside them. By filling these spaces with plaster and waiting for it to set, the excavators could produce precise casts of the people and animals who had died there. The expressions on their faces, the positions of their bodies, the texture of their clothing, all of it was there, frozen in the rock, waiting. Among the casts produced from these excavations was the dog. It was found in the house of a man named Vesonius Primus, a fuller, a craftsman who cleaned and processed wool. The house was a modest but comfortable dwelling, as Pompeian middle-class homes went, with the usual arrangement of rooms around a central courtyard and the usual evidence of an ordinary life interrupted. And in one room of that house, archaeologists found the remains of a large dog still chained to a post by its collar, and beneath it, or rather on top of it, because the dog had climbed as high as the ash would allow before it died, the remains of a child. The dog's name, according to a mosaic at the entrance of the house, may have been Delta. The mosaic showed a dog on a leash with the Latin words cave canem, beware the dog, which was a common enough inscription in Roman homes, the ancient equivalent of a warning sign. Delta had presumably been the family's guard dog, kept chained near the entrance to deter thieves and alert the household to strangers. When Vesuvius erupted, the family fled. In the chaos and the darkness and the falling ash, they left the dog behind. Whether this was a conscious decision or simply the terrible arithmetic of survival, we cannot carry everything, we cannot save everything, we have to run, we will never know. What we know is that the dog was left chained, unable to escape, while the ash rose around it. And the child did not make it out either. The excavators found the child's remains beneath the dog, or rather, the dog had died on top of the child, its body curled around the smaller figure in what appears to have been a deliberate act of protection. As the ash rose and the air became impossible to breathe, and death became certain and imminent, the dog had placed itself over the child and stayed there. It could not save the child. The pyroclastic surge killed everything in the city, regardless of what covered or protected it. No amount of canine devotion was sufficient against a force of that magnitude, but the dog did not know that, or perhaps it did know, in whatever way animals understand such things, and stayed anyway. It did what it could. It offered what it had. It died doing it. This is the story that the cast in the Naples Museum tells, not a story of survival or rescue, a story of presence, of a creature that when the world ended, chose not to run, but to stay, to put its body between the child it had lived with and the thing that was killing them both, to be, in the final seconds of its life, exactly what it had always been, a guardian. The Romans understood dogs in a way that was complicated and sometimes brutal by modern standards. Dogs were working animals, guards, hunters, herders. They were valued for their utility, but they were also understood to possess something that the Romans called fides, faithfulness, loyalty, the quality of being trustworthy. It was one of the highest virtues in Roman moral philosophy, applied to citizens and soldiers and statesmen, and it was also, the Romans acknowledged without embarrassment, a quality that dogs possessed, perhaps more purely than most human beings. Delta, if that was the dog's name, demonstrated fides in its most absolute form, not the calculated loyalty of a soldier weighing odds, not the conditional loyalty of a citizen whose allegiance could be tested by circumstance, but the simple, total, unconditional loyalty of a creature that had one job and did it until it physically could not do it anymore. 2,000 years have passed since that morning in August. The Roman Empire that Pompeii was a part of has been gone for 15 centuries. The language its people spoke is no longer anyone's mother tongue. The gods they prayed to are no longer worshipped. The political system they lived under, the economic structures that organized their days, the specific texture of their daily lives, all of it has dissolved into history and archaeology and educated guesswork. But the cast of the dog remains, and the story it tells is not a Roman story or an ancient story. It is a story about what loyalty means when it costs everything, about what it means to stay when staying is the hardest thing, about the particular kind of love that does not calculate and does not waver and does not, in the end, leave. The dog could not save the child, but it did not leave the child alone.
In the long catalog of human and animal suffering that Pompeii represents, that small fact stands out. Not as consolation, there is no consolation for what happened there, but as something, as evidence that even in the worst moments, even when the mountain is erupting and the sky is dark and the ash is rising and there is nothing to be done, some creatures choose to stay. Delta stayed. 2,000 years later, we are still standing in front of its cast, going quiet, understanding something.